And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPCast. Today, joined by Josh and Erika. Josh, confess to us, you don't have any idea what we're talking about today.
Why not?
So, first off, I need to offer an official apology to people, YouTube viewers of the show. I went back and I was looking through the comments of the last show, and people were saying I might have to stop watching the LOOPCast because there's so many ads. And when I saw I'm going to stop watching, it was like, oh, it's something Josh said. Like, no, it's about the ads. And that's kind of on me. So I went back and looked. Truly an outrageous amount of ads were being put on. I'm talking like, do you guys have any guesses of, so we do an hour show, maybe a little over. How many ads would you suppose an outrageous?
YouTube puts in the feed?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
5.
Like 3.
13.
13?
They were putting ads in between the countdown timer for the live stream. So it'd get to about a minute ad. And I was like, I get it, guys. That's outrageous.
And they're all for probably Kamala.
Exactly. I have said we've gotten like Kamala ads on there. Truly an outrageous amount of ads. So I will be fixing that. Please do not stop listening to the show because of YouTube advertisements. That just was insane.
Yeah, we're going to fix that.
Yeah, we're going to fix that. Live, warm welcome to everyone here joining live in the chat. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11. You don't get any ads on the live stream, which is pretty nice. So if you want to have more fun, come join us then. Appreciate everyone listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And we're going to have a great show today. So first, we have the Al Smith dinner. Now, for those who...
I love this.
For those... And I knew Josh was going to love this subject. If that sounds familiar, it is a traditional Catholic dinner, Archdiocese of New York, charity event in which politicians roast each other. So we got some fanfare from the Trump-Hillary 2016 Al Smith dinner. 2020 was kind of lame. It was virtual and there wasn't many jokes.
Totally lame.
We go all the way back.
No. Actually, you have to understand.
Go for it.
So they've been doing this since '84. Every presidential cycle where they invite the candidates, everyone who's been invited has accepted the invitation. Kamala Harris is the first one to decline it, but it doesn't mean they do it every year, every presidential cycle. Okay. So they didn't do it in 2004 and they didn't do it in 2020. Why? Because the Catholic Church feels like they have no permission and to honor or invite somebody who supports abortion. So Joe Biden wasn't invited and John Kerry wasn't invited. But if they invite Hillary Clinton, she's not claiming to be Catholic, so they can have her there. That's why so this is the first, time that somebody's been invited and has declined. Because why wouldn't you? Usually it's like a roast of your opponent. That's kind of done lightheartedly. You get a few jabs in, like Hillary Clinton got up there. She said, "Oh, I see Mayor Bloomberg's here. Maybe I say have him come up here so we can actually hear from a real billionaire." Obviously, it's meant as a joke that Trump didn't actually have $1 billion. But like Trump didn't go for that at all. He's like, "Oh, lighthearted roast? Yeah, no way." He brought out the freaking bazooka, dude.
Oh I got some highlights. Do you want to see some highlights?
Yeah, let's do highlights. I rewatched this yesterday because I just had to relive it. It was amazing.
That'd be a fun opportunity to do a little highlight. Here we go.
With all of the heated back and forth between my opponent and me at the debate last night, we have proven that we can actually be civil to each other. In fact, just before taking the dais, Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me."
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
And I very politely replied, "Let me talk to you about that after I get into office."
She's like,
Last night, I called Hillary a nasty woman. But this stuff is all relative. After listening to Hillary rattle on and on and on, I don't think so badly of Rosie O'Donnell anymore. In fact, I'm actually starting to like Rosie a lot.
So terrible.
I think we all more in this.
You know, the president told me to stop whining. But I really have to say, the media is even more biased this year than ever before. Ever. You want the proof? Michelle Obama gives a speech, and everyone loves it. It's fantastic. They think she's absolutely great. My wife, Melania, gives the exact same speech. And people get on her case.
So well done.
And I don't get it. I don't know why.
Oh, the plagiarism
And
scandal.
it wasn't
So
her
good.
fault. Stan.
That was so good.
It was so brutal. I watched the whole thing yesterday just because, I have so much time on my hands. And you watch Hillary's face, her reactions to the first few jokes. She's like laughing and out there, big smile. By the end of the speech, she is completely wilted. She does not even react anymore. And it's just, he really took out all the stuff.
I mean, I can see why Kamala doesn't want any of that. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, how could she survive in that environment?
I
She
don't
has
know.
no sense of humor.
I mean, she could deliver a line. It's not like she has to come up with the jokes herself. I mean, people write these jokes for each of the candidates, so just get up there and deliver. I don't know how it would be that tough.
I don't think she could sit there for 7 minutes and be roasted, though. Like, did you see her react? Last week, she was at what was the Black Journalists of America conference or something. She had completely friendly audience. At the end, she stormed off the stage. These poor 3 kids, they were probably in their early 20s, maybe even in college. They're left standing there, and she storms off the stage, and you can see the backstage footage. She's like yelling at her staff because one of them asked her an off-script follow-up question to one of her responses.
That's a no-no.
She lost it.
Those
She
are tough.
completely lost it. Can you imagine sitting through 7 minutes of Trump ribbing her? I don't
Here's the
think she could
thing.
do it.
I mean, I think it's just that you're right. She is just, I think she has this sense where she feels totally out of her element and afraid, in palpable fear. Like that whole cackle, people don't need to realize that's absolutely a nervous fear. Like that's like a reaction, like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't get asked a really tough question. Ha ha ha. Whereas Trump, like they did a comedy roast on, I don't know, it was Comedy Central, this is a few years back or whatever. And he's like, okay, say whatever you want about me, but don't no jokes against Melania, And they get up there and everyone's cracking these jokes. I mean, just tearing him apart, making so much fun of him right to his face. He's laughing the whole time. And they even did jokes on Melania. They're just like, whatever, they didn't care. Afterwards, he comes up to him and goes, that was great TV. He knew it was good for the audience. It was funny. It was all at his expense. And he was okay with it. So, I mean, I think that shows you, like, I would say accused him of having thin skin, but I think he's got thick skin. I think he's very egotistical. And so when Kamala said, "Oh, I have bigger crowds," and people leave your crowds early, he is kind of got that element of egoism. He doesn't like hearing that, but overall, he's got, I would say, a thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw an interesting thing on IQs. And the IQ of presidential candidates. I'm looking for it. You guys can keep going. I need to find this.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the IQs of your co-hosts. I don't know, but talk about inferiority complex.
From that one, did you have the clips from other roasts?
I did. Yeah,
I got to throw that on there.
Yeah. I got them from the Obama era historical ones. I mean, it goes over to Kennedy.
There's one with Bob Dole in there too. I mean, that goes way back, and I think that's part of the sadness for me here, because I'm not surprised she declined when the word came across on like Saturday that she wasn't going to do it. I wasn't surprised, but I was sad because this has historically in my lifetime been kind of a lighthearted moment in some really vicious campaigns. And to see that go away just kind of speaks to where we are right now as a country. And
in fact, I mean, there's a big tradition of roasts like in Hollywood in like the 60s and even in the 70s. And then it stopped for a very long time. But the Al Smith dinner kept going with these every 4 years. And so finally, the entertainment business came back and started doing roasts in the last 15 years or so. Most of them are just not that good.
Right. They're not funny.
Like they're just absolutely profane, 100% like vulgar. And it's like, that's not actually that creative. Like, anyone can throw crap at the wall. I mean, monkeys can do that. Like you actually have to be intelligent to get a really good cutting joke. So do you have this tape? Let's roll this. This is Looks like George W. Bush here.
Some people call you the elite. I call you my base.
He was a good comedian. He had good timing.
Yes.
A campaign can require a lot of wardrobe changes. We, blue jeans in the morning perhaps, suit for a lunch fundraiser, sport coat for dinner, but it's nice to finally relax and to wear what Ann and I wear around the house.
I'm still making the most of my time in the city. Earlier today, I went shopping at some stores in Midtown. I understand Governor Romney went shopping for some stores in Midtown.
Don't be surprised if the president mentions this evening the monthly jobs report where there was a slight improvement in the numbers. He knows how to seize the moment, this president, and already has a compelling new campaign slogan. You're better off now than you were 4 weeks ago.
Ultimately, though, tonight's not about the disagreements Governor Romney and I may have. It's what we have in common, beginning with our unusual names. Actually, Mitt is his middle name. I wish I could use my middle name.
I can't shake that feeling that some people here are pulling for me. I'm delighted to see you here tonight, Hillary.
One of my favorite shows is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Well, it should really be called Who Wants to Be After Taxes, a $651,437.70 person.
The Cardinal said, Senator, we'd like to have America's most powerful and important Republican as our speaker at this year's Al Smith's dinner. Needless to say, I was flattered as I began to stumble out an acceptance. The Cardinal added, so I was wondering if you could give me Rush Limbaugh's phone number.
I knew it.
That's so good. Like,
Yeah.
that was heartwarming. These guys were not, I mean, not the greatest of men, perhaps, but they could at least tell a joke about themselves, right?
Well, I was even going back. If you go back, for all the people that say, man, this year's election cycle is the most vicious and nasty of all time, go take a look at some really early America.
1800, baby.
Oh my goodness. Someone
Gold standard.
would make people blush now. I mean, wasn't there something about Thomas Jefferson putting kids' heads on stakes?
Well, I don't know about that, but the whole accusation of him having, a love child with a slave, that's where that all started in that campaign.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been nasty. They've always been contentious. And to Erica's point, it is kind of nice to know that at the end of the day, you could come together and still have fun and still be unified. And it, to your point, Erica, it feels like it's a little bit lacking. And it also kind of goes against a lot of the messaging, I think, from Democrats of, well, if Trump really is Hitler, why are people hanging out with him? You wouldn't do that to someone. I see that all the time with musicians too. Like this one musician just came out and said she's not going to endorse either Kamala or Trump, and people are angry at her. And she's like, well, I have problems with both sides and I don't feel the need. And they're like, well, you don't understand. Like Trump's literally Hitler. If you don't say something, you're not going to be on the quote right side of history. And there's almost like a fealty involved. But I found the thing on IQs that I do want. I've wanted to talk about this for like 3 episodes now.
Nice.
So I'm going to share this tab. Bang. So years ago, I read that John Kennedy had an IQ of around 120 and Nixon was a little over 140. This makes sense of Kennedy winning the election in 1960. Being too smart makes you less relatable unless you're really worked at it. And this also explains somewhat why radio listeners thought that Nixon won the debate, while those watching on TV favored Kennedy. Radio is much more intellectual medium because you don't get manipulated with visuals. But all the razor-sharp intellects in the GOP, like Vivek or DeSantis or Vance, should be aware of this. You can't win without the personal touch. Trump has it in spades. Nixon won in 1972 with 49 states because he had lost in 1960 and again in California in 1962. He needed to learn how to tamp down his intellect and make people like him. And I do
absolutely
think
true.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh. What were you going to say on it?
No, it's absolutely true. And in fact, I mean, like, I love J.D. Vance. He's probably the one politician in American life that I agree with the most on. And if you look at him, he was like he went into a donut shop to buy a box of donuts, and he just felt so out of place and kind of awkward or whatever. And like, I get it. That's what happens sometimes. Like, he's kind of a nerd. And so he needs to work on that. He's only this is his second campaign. You realize he got elected to the Senate 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now he's running for vice president. So he's going to, if he does get elected vice president with Trump, he is going to have to spend a lot of time just going out there and connecting with regular voters. I think he's improving a lot, but I mean, yeah, I agree with that. And like the same thing, like Ron DeSantis. I mean, I think Ron DeSantis is phenomenal. One of my favorite politicians in the country, and but he the charisma end of it isn't there yet. I mean, he's like a JAG lawyer. He's absolutely a phenomenal governor, and his governance has been fantastic. But like in terms of connecting with people, he's phenomenal when he gets in front of a news camera and he's just swatting down reporters because he knows everything. He's a total mastery of all the information and the data, so no one can get him in any kind of gotcha. Same thing with JD Vance. But if either of those men are going to run for president in 2028, and Trump has said he's not going to run if he loses this time, so it'll be wide open in 2028. Each of those guys need to develop that connection with voters, that common touch, and it's something that can be learned. I mean, it sounds crazy, but like one of the best politicians in my entire lifetime at connecting with people is somebody I don't like at all, which is Bill Clinton. He was absolutely phenomenal, and I don't like it because he had a horrible agenda. But people need to remember he gave the nominating speech in 1988 for Dukakis, and he was terrible. It was like 52 minutes, and it was dragging on and on and on because he just didn't have that ability to speak. So what did he do? He went to Hollywood after that. I'm not even kidding. And he had like directors
coaching,
coach me. How do I get better at connecting with an audience, and how do I get better at connecting to retail, people to people? And again, these are skills. If you're humble enough, you say, I know I need to improve on this, and you connect.
Well, you look at who are the two most successful Republicans of recent history, probably Ronald Reagan, who came from Hollywood, and Donald Trump, who spent his time as a reality star for the most part. Clearly, there's something that was attracting people. I mean, he's just very funny. And Erika, you were talking to me before. Was it someone was critiquing Kamala? They were from the New York Times, and they were saying that she's hilarious.
Yeah.
And Trump has been the best litmus test. If you cannot look at Trump and admit that he's at the very least funny, I just don't. It really makes me not want to trust anything else you say, because regardless of what you think about the man, whether or not you like him, whatever, he's funny and he's endearing.
Yeah,
Both
absolutely.
true. And then for the people that go and say, no, Kamala is hilarious and she's so relatable and all this, which is also very obviously not true.
Well, she's not funny, but some people would say that she's relatable. I there's an argument there, but the funny, I agree with you, not funny.
But there's people that are going out of their way to go over the top, to basically go over the top and say, no, my gosh, she's the funniest, she's the best, whatever. That's just a lie. So we're basically judging character almost. If you can't acknowledge those obvious facts, then what else are you kind of off on?
Yeah, I mean, if you need times to tell you who's funny and who's not, then like you need to take some time away from screens, I think, honestly, and like find your sense of humor again. But I think it's the same thing as the Kamala Harris campaign, leaning so much in those first days into the whole joy meme. Like, she is joy, she is happiness, she is feeling. And for anyone actually paying attention to her like what she's done in office, her track record, it's anything but joyful. But you get this like narrative that no, she's joy, and now we're getting this narrative like she's funny and her laugh is a great laugh. Don't believe your lying ears. But
she travels from town to town by walking on clouds. She's the best thing ever. I mean,
know.
it just kind of drives me crazy. Like this totally phony.
From the top of the campaign, they had to hire a meme manager for the Biden-Harris campaign. And that, to me, signaled everything you need to know. Those type of people come up organically. You can't hire a meme maker to all of a sudden be funny. It's people in their free time find something compelling enough to add a funny angle to. And Trump had that in spades. I mean, everything he did was hilarious. People were memeing the crap out of him. They still are. And so if you have to try to inorganically insert that, it just doesn't work. One person that I did want to bring up, too, in the IQ conversation, because he was brought up, Vivek Ramaswamy, I think that he has that in spades. I actually have really appreciated what he's brought to politics in the last couple of years. There's an example that really spoke to me when he was with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk does these college tours, and he's somewhat infamous for debating college kids. It's very Ben Shapiro-esque.
He's very combative too, yeah.
Very combative. And so he gets in a debate kind of with this college girl, and he's with Vivek Ramaswamy. And of course, very contentious. And the girl basically is like, how do you feel about yourself coming to colleges and debating people not as smart as you, not as prepared as you? And they were just kind of stuck in the rut of telling each other that they're wrong and that they don't like each other. And then in comes Vivek. And he's like, okay, you came up here. You said you have legitimate concerns with what Congress has to say about LGBTQ rights. What are those concerns? Like, I want to know your stance. And then he said, actually, I'll share my stance. And his summary basically was, as an adult in America, you have the freedom to do what you want to do, but it can't be brought to children. Can we agree there? And basically, I just like that he appreciated her enough as a human to offer an out and to try to see where they could come together. Mm-hmm. And then they couldn't at the end, but at least you kind of felt better about the whole thing at the end of it. And I'm going to say stock watch on Vivek. I see him continuing to rise with that kind of approach. I think people really want that right now on both sides. And I think it builds a bigger coalition than the angry, I'm right, you're wrong on both sides of it. I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah. And so Ben Shapiro that was his whole, how he got started on going to college campuses, because he's brilliant. And so like they'd come up with these kind of empty slogans and you just eviscerate them, Ben Shapiro nails it again. And so Charlie Kirk's doing the same kind of thing where I'm going to swat down these silly things. And you're right. Vivek's like, hey, wait a minute now. Let's just kind of actually talk about this more. And so he moved away from the Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro impose model to the propose. And I think in general, conservatives need to do more of that, because what we need to understand is if you really get down to the chase, I honestly think that 70% of Americans actually kind of agree with us. I mean, this is one of the things I had the chance to do a bunch of driving over the weekend, listening to some Tucker Carlson podcasts. And I agree with his point. Like he's going, I traveled the whole country and people are just not fomenting at the mouth and screaming. There's not like this widespread racial tension where whites and blacks are screaming at each other like because they're racists at the grocery store. It doesn't happen. Like it's all a media illusion that we're somehow like at each other's throats all the time. And you can actually say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't, do, I don't know, medical experiments on children under the age of 18. Like we don't let them buy cigarettes or get tattoos. Maybe we shouldn't crush their genitals. Like kind of seems like kind of smart idea. So this idea like Vivek's getting at, I do think there is something to that. You can get common cause with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I had a conversation last week with a guy named Ryan Ellis. It's for an Edify interview. It's going to come out in a couple of weeks. And something that we spent a lot of time talking about. He's a tax expert. Talks about like healthcare and policy and tax policy. So pretty like economic driven conversation. But what we began with was I just wanted him to explain to me what the goals are of progressive leftist economic policies. Because when we talk about them, we mostly look at their effects of like they're destroying, it's tearing down the family, it's tearing down society. So like we're looking at the effects and evaluating what they actually do, right? So like Josh's line there, his little prop that he's, yes, exactly. It is what it does. Yeah. But I wanted to get at it the front end. And he spent a lot of time explaining that a lot of the impulse behind these policies, which are absolutely the worst, are actually impulses that we all share as people. And I found it a really helpful way for him to explain the different economic threads going on that, look, most people, they want to help the poor. They want there to be some kind of, safety net for people they can't get to. They also want to do the right thing. Like most people, if they're in a grocery store and they saw a woman like weeping because she couldn't buy food for her kids, most people would be like, hey, can I buy you something? Like they have good impulses. And I think that something to kind of go a little circle around to the Al Smith dinner, something about events like that have goodwill, bring that back out to the fore, that like we do have something in common, and it's this desire to like have a good life and help other people have a good life, and tapping into that is something that's so important. Kamala says it a lot, right? One of her campaign lines right now is, we have more in common than what divides us. And like, that probably is plagiarized from somewhere.
Well, and again, I guess I think what you're saying is really good. And that's why when we have debates on stuff, like let's say they want to raise the minimum wage,
right?
Like too often conservatives will just immediately jump in and say, well, that's not going to be effective and it's going to make it hard. And they get all these examples, which are not,
right.
They're not necessarily wrong. I mean, it does disincentivize unskilled labor, especially those under 20, from entering in and trying to get a job at McDonald's or whatever. That's all true. But like, start with I would, to your point, I would agree. Like, start with actually what they're intending to do, what their aspiration here is. Like, oh, you want to make it so that it's more affordable for families or people to be able to pay for their rent. They're like, yes, yes. Like, hey, I think so too. You know, it might be a better way to get to that, and then focus on that. Steer the conversation to a solution that might actually get the job done. Like, hey, let's, you know, lower restrictions and make it easier for home builders to make stuff so that we can have a lot more stuff on the market. Because otherwise you get politicians like Kamala who will just say, hey, you know what? It's hard for people to buy homes. It is. Let's give everyone a $25,000 bonus. Like, okay. I mean, that's just going to make everyone rise the price of $25,000 for every home. So let's not do that. Let's actually talk about what could do that. How can we make home ownership more affordable?
This whole conversation screams to me too. What feels so off about the Harris campaign is it really lacks a go to the people, ask people, be on the ground, talk to people. It's really the opposite of what I see from Trump Vance. And then I think about, you know, why are we doing this? It goes back to the Ramaswamy and Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk, super intelligent, got a lot of great things to say. I'm not anti-Charlie Kirk, but something that really got me thinking over the weekend was I was listening to the Matt Walsh on Joe Rogan episode, which I always love seeing those two together.
It was really funny.
It was very funny. But, you know, when Elon Musk bought Twitter, it was estimated, his estimate was that 80% of accounts were fake, were bots. And I look at this study, and this is the next thing I had on the list here. TikTok, we have this Pew survey, 10,658 U.S. adults in July 15th, asked where they regularly got their news. 17% of the total number surveyed said they got their news from TikTok. That's compared to just 3% who said the same thing in 2020. And I've had a few people email in saying, hey, I don't subscribe to you guys, but I listen to you to get different perspectives. And I really appreciate that kind of honest search for knowledge. And back to, you know, what unites us versus what divides us, I think we all kind of have a sense, and I feel like it's really been aggravated recently, of algorithms pushing things that do divide us or get people angry. And to think just hypothetically, if 80% of Twitter is fake, you know, how easy it would be for them to make something not true seem like reality, or how easy it would be to kind of inflame what's going on. And what I love most about kind of these independent creators going to the ground, Vivek Ramaswamy being one of them, but also independent reporters going, Peter Boghossian doing street opinion,
love it.
Getting people to think critically, asking questions, and just getting authentic answers. I feel like I always learn the most from that. And yeah, I guess that goes to the next.
Actually, I want to pivot off what you said right away, because
Go for it.
I have to say, like, you know, cable television, a lot like social media, the economics of cable TV news as well as social media is they make more money through agitation. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I'm glad that, look at what CatholicVote's media initiatives have been, right? An email newsletter. Like, I mean, you click the articles or you don't, but it's like, you know, people like the Loop and they enjoy reading it. And this, you know, hour-long podcast form. I mean, it's like we're intentionally going towards media forms that are just trying to help people understand what's going on. We're not like, hey, let's just agitate. And I'm not like trying to throw, you know, a bunch of criticism at Fox News or MSNBC or whoever. I mean, I get it, but it is true that they like to keep you agitated, so you keep coming back for more. It's and then social media, it's the dopamine hit, right? You got to scroll dopamine. You know, I'm glad that we're, you know, actually trying to provide people with as much answers as we can.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll be the first to say that we're not perfect either. And so one thing to note though, Erika, Josh, and I mean, just very normal people. I'd say sometimes I learn the most when I go back and I talk to people either like outside the vestibule at church or talk with family members. And those are formative for me to just get the perspective of maybe what a person whose head is not in this all the time. I mean, we have to cut through a lot of the nonsense. And I'm thankful in a lot of ways for social media because it reveals things that just would not be revealed otherwise. But when I have those discussions, the opposite of that are being stuck in an algorithm or on social media. If you're just doom scrolling all the time, that's where you're going to find the division. Where you find the unity is when you actually talk to people. So
Yeah.
I don't know. This is getting like more personal, I guess, than we usually do on the loop.
Tom's getting choked up a little there. Yeah.
Not choked up, but I just sometimes, I pop my head up for air and I think about, what are we doing here? What's the point? And if we don't come back to, we try to give people proper information, but if you don't, because I feel like what happens in advice is, what are the things you never talk about in polite company? It's politics and religion. But then where do people go to get their information on it? They go to social media, which we're saying is full of bots and intentionally puts people at each other's throats. So in some ways, the best place to have these kind of conversation are in polite company or with people you do. So are we arming people to have the best possible conversations with family members, with people at their churches, with people at work, obviously in a polite way? I hope so.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best approach would be, you hear all of this, we get to talk together, we get to communicate off air, which is awesome. But it doesn't do much if you just stay here and you just angry about it. If you're not going out and having conversation with people about this election or about religion or about the church, or even within Catholic circles about what's going on within the church, I guess it's all pointless.
Yeah.
I don't know if
So
that's
get out there, talk about it.
harsh reality, but true. Okay, so I have a mailbag that I specifically, and I think a lot of this stems from this. So Erika on homeschooling. Okay?
Hey.
Quite the celebrity in these circles with your ability to do this show, raise your family, and homeschool. It's very, very impressive, and I respect you a lot for that. So we have a question. Hi, Tom. I also wanted to direct a question to Erika for the LOOPCast. I'm a mom to 3 boys, very young. I am homeschool curious and would like to know if she has any good book recommendations that helped her solidify her decision to homeschool, and if she could discuss how she chose a good curriculum and how she manages with all the kids. It's a couple years away before my oldest would start school, but my husband has many doubts about homeschooling, and I would like to show him how I am well-informed about this education option since it's a tough decision. Love the LOOPCast and your unique perspectives. It keeps a, quote, cloistered stay-at-home Leah. Erika.
Oh, yeah.
From Cedarburg. I was just there.
Cedarburg, Wisconsin. Yeah, really great questions, really common questions too. So shout out to Leah. A couple of recommendations. So I would say actually a blog that it's more digestible for the cloistered stay-at-home mom of very small boys. So Lila Lawler, Lawler, has a blog called Like Mother, Like Daughter. She's been faithful to this thing since like the blogger days of the early 2000s. And there is a treasure trove in there. She's really delightful, a little bit edgy, loves to talk about all things. She's fantastic. Please go check out her blog.
She doesn't hold back.
She does not hold back, and she's just real. For me as a young mom, it was like, okay, I can do this. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be ups and downs, but Lila has got my back. So I would say Lila Lawler. As far as like the theory end of homeschooling goes, I would read Laura Berquist's Designing Your Own Classical Curriculum, which was sort of the foundation of one of the best curriculums out there, Mother of Divine Grace School. Classical, Catholic, very good for homeschooling. Honestly, though, the best thing to do is to find a homeschool group and just go visit and just hang out with moms who have been doing it for 5 or 10 years already, maybe 20, and get to know them. Something that most dads I talk to who ended up like being really pro homeschool, and now they have multiple kids graduating from homeschool, what happened was they saw other families whose kids were teenagers who had been homeschooled, and they saw how they interacted with adults, with younger kids, with each other, and they said, I want my kids to be like that. So what's the common thread? They homeschooled. And I think that's a big turning point for a lot of dads or moms who are skeptical, like, is this worth the effort? Is it worth the sacrifice? So I would say Lila Lawler. For the academic stuff, Laura Berquist.
Really quick. So
go for it.
That's a big observation that I personally have had and have seen as well. Why do you think that is? Why do you think homeschool kids were able to socialize in a different way than other?
Well, they get together usually, right? I mean, every Friday you guys are getting together, your homeschoolers, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, I was telling a mom, we had one of our big old potlucks last night with like 100 people at our house. It was awesome. I just love it. And probably 70% of the kids there are homeschooled. And this one mom was like, so how's your school year going? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I am having the hardest time homeschooling because we're never home. Like the kids are doing so much socialization. I'm like, okay, we need to stay home to homeschool. But yeah, I mean, I think a couple of reasons why homeschool kids, again, there's always the outliers, right? But tend to be more socialized is that they're in contact throughout the day, mostly with siblings who are of different ages, right? They have a really well-rounded just school day where they're doing school on their own at their own level maybe, but then maybe they're helping a younger sibling with something. Maybe they're working with an older sibling to like finish a chore. They have interaction with more adults during the day. They're expected to participate. Like it's hard to say, I'm not going to participate in this discussion about Johnny Tremaine when it's just you and your mom talking about it. Like you have to talk to me about Johnny Tremaine, which is one of my favorite novels. And so that's always good. But yeah, there's the wonderful thing about homeschooling right now is there are so many opportunities in most places to interact with other families and other kids in a smaller setting. Then you think about the setup of public schools, it's pretty unnatural. Like you're going to spend 12, 13 years of your life in a room with 30 to 40 kids, all your own age and one adult. Like that's just not natural. That's not how human beings were meant to be formed. Like you think about the way until the Industrial Revolution, kids learn in the context of a family or a one-room schoolhouse, multiple ages. We have a very artificial education system, and I think it stunts a lot of that ability to interact socially that you see with your typical homeschool kid at this point.
Yeah,
So,
I really struggle to do this podcast with you elders.
yeah. I know. Pogo homeschooled for high school, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like you're a homeschooler kid.
I'm an interesting case because
Turned out okay.
so my mom is a regular feature on the show, but both my parents were teachers. My grandfather's a teacher, all public school. I went to public school up until my junior year of high school, and then I joined something called Regina Chaley Academy. And my mom was going to do it with the younger two. So I have 3 brothers, younger 2. And it wasn't really a thought for me because I was kind of an example of someone who's probably doing public school well. I played sports. I was in band. I did well socially. I did well grades wise. It was never.
Wait, what did you do in band?
I played trombone.
Oh.
No way. I didn't know that.
Played trombone. I was in marching band too. So not only did I was in marching band. Yeah.
I have no musical talent whatsoever.
Yeah. Also, I'm very proud of this. I actually was just asked about this by my wife. Have you ever came through on a New Year's resolution? I said on this podcast I would learn guitar. I have learned guitar, so I can play a few songs now. So shout out to me.
Shout out to Pogo. Okay.
You're still a young father. You have time for hobbies. I didn't know that.
That's true. Yeah. Although Leo, or my son, likes when we play. But anyway, so I do this Regina Chaley Academy, and I really credit a lot of this to the Holy Spirit because there's things that I just couldn't have understood at the time. But I was at a great church community, and if I homeschooled, it would allow me to spend more time there and receive sacraments a lot more often. Go to Mass on Monday and Thursday and have a religion element to my education that I just didn't have at a public school. And then I really loved Socratic style classrooms. So we were in small classrooms and we talked about everything that we read. One of the biggest differences that I noticed was it was much more tailored to college, actually. This co-op model where Monday, Thursday, you're at a school taking tests in classrooms, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, you go do the work. So I can speak less for lower school, elementary school age, but in high school, much more like my college experience. So I felt much better prepared. Also, the reading material I was doing was at a much higher level. I remember being the kid in public school where this was before all the crazy book stuff too. A teacher put out the list of things that you could choose for reading in 9th grade. This was when I was in public school. And of course, my mom was very involved in my education. And so I brought that list home and I said, okay, well, you wanted to see this. Like, I guess I got to choose one on this. She went through all the books and only allowed me to do one book. And it was Ender's Game, which was pretty sick, I have to say. But she was looking up some of these other books. Like there was weird incestuous relationships.
Yeah.
Everything had a sexual element to it. And this was before a lot of it got even worse than it was then. But it was bad. And of course, that was never a question with my time at Regina Chaley Academy, which actually I think they just they asked me to do a testimonial. So we'll see how
Aw.
it goes, which was, I was very honored. I was one of the first graduating classes in the Detroit area. And so it prepared me well for college. But I think to Erika's point too, it is weird and artificial to separate kids by grade, and you're only with people of your own age. And all the homeschooling families that I knew, one, obviously had a much closer relationship to their siblings. And then two, having friends outside of age groups was just the norm. And of course that becomes the norm in adulthood. You're just used to it. And then also as a young man too, to have to sit in a classroom for 10 hours was unbelievable. I don't even know how I did it looking back, and I wasn't even hyperactive. I imagine there's some more hyper kids that barely stayed in a classroom and are actually punished for that. And most of the time with homeschooling, you can get done what you got to get done 3-4 hours and you're done. And then I was able to be a part of things like debate. I was in a debate club. I played soccer. I was able to work a job too, which was pretty awesome. So I was able to save some money. But yeah, I would say not for everyone. And someone brought up this idea of the Benedict option of kind of separating yourself, living in a bubble. I think of it more. Some people are like, oh, you live in a Catholic bubble. I'm like, yeah, I have a lot of Catholic friends. I was like, that's great. But I think that is used on the wrong side right now. If
Yeah.
anything, I think that more people should consider living in what I call a Catholic incubator if your faith is important to pass on to your children. Because the education I say this for public school, not all private schools, and a lot of private schools have gotten pretty bad. But the most surefire way to make sure your kid most likely loses their faith is to send them to a public school and then send them to a public college. And I'm not saying this happens for everyone, but because there is no religious education in a public school, zero. And then if you take them on Sunday, you have to go so above and beyond. We're talking next to jobs, next to other kids, next to stresses. Unless that is the priority and it's seen as the priority by children, I feel like it's just so hard to kind of pass on that hard-earned faith to your children and have it be a priority for them in college. I'm not saying it's impossible, because I'm going to have some people come after me here for this take. If passing on your faith is most important, say homeschooling or some type of hybrid model is probably the most effective way of doing that in my experience. So I'd recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, and I just kind of piggyback on that closing thought, I guess. People will come up to me and say like, "Oh my gosh, you homeschool your kid. I could never do that." I hear that so much time. Like, I could never do that. I'm like, you don't know what you could do.
Yeah.
And just as an encouragement, like if that's something that's been on your heart, definitely just look into it, at least like give it a shot. There's I like to say like there's just different kinds of hard, right? No matter how just choosing to raise kids, it's going to be hard. It's choosing the kind of hard that you want to do. And as a homeschooling mom, like we talk about the benefits to the kids, but the benefits to our marriage have just been so amazing. Because like Todd and I are in this together and we're trying to do a hard thing together, but it's really rewarding. And we sent our oldest daughter off to college, a year ago. And watching her go off, we were so grateful, the two of us, just to think back to all the hours we'd had with her as she left. We were like, wow, it's over. But we had so much time with her because of the way we chose to structure her education and our family. And it was 100% worth it. One more book to plug. It's a secular book, and dads really like this one too. So if there's like homeschool curious moms whose husbands aren't as into it, it's called Homeschool Hacks by Lindsay Necht, and I'll make sure it gets into the show notes for you. But that was a great one. She just has a lot. Sorry, not Necht. It's Knurl. Lindsay Knurl, Knerl, and lots of different ways that household structure homeschooling are featured in the book, and it's super practical. Make it work for your family, etc. So one more plug.
Yeah. And I know there's tons of this whole conversation is riddled with guilt, because I know there's probably people that feel guilty that they're not homeschooling.
Yeah.
Feel guilty that they are homeschooling. Of course, when we say something is good, we're not saying the other is bad.
There you go.
And I know that there's cases where you just have to make things happen in your family. I have some personally in my family where it is impossible for them at this stage in life. And I honestly just respect that they're able to raise their kids so well. So it's not impossible, any of these situations. I just think right now, more people think it's impossible for them to homeschool. And I just don't think that's reality. I think you're capable of much more than you think, and it is a viable option. But there's also plenty of other good schools, and education needs to be tailored individually. I'm a big believer in the classical school of education.
Oh, I love it.
I would not do anything else personally. Highly recommend, if you're not doing that, get into that now. Could be good for adults as well. So, yeah, we have one last thing before we go into the Twilight Zone. So I thought this was interesting. We have the Trump would-be assassin letter released almost immediately. And why this really was surprising to me was I think we had like illegal leaks to even get the Covenant Manifesto.
Right. That took forever.
Took over a year.
And all of a sudden we're getting letters from this would-be assassin immediately after. So I'm going to share the tab.
And of course, what does the letter say?
Yeah, I have a quote. So, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I can muster. It is up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whoever can complete this job." Seems like something a little risky to put out in public.
Absolutely psycho that the law enforcement agencies could allow this to come out.
Yeah. 150,000.
Doesn't this goes against the entire ethos of school shootings, for sure, of you don't want to inspire copycats. And even if it doesn't have something in it that would inspire copycats, you just don't want to bring more attention to it in general. But we're getting this strong urge from this guy, someone finish the job. I saw a headline too. Trump, someone was trying to dock Trump for not campaigning as hard. And they said, wow, Trump's only doing a couple rallies now. It looks like he's getting tired. I'm like, I'm sure he's tired of getting shot at.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
What are we talking about here?
Did you see his interview? The woman asked him, she goes, "So what do you do to stay healthy and like energetic?" And he's like, "Well, I used to play golf, but it's become a dangerous game." I was like, that was so sick. He just, it's become a dangerous game.
Wouldn't it be nice if he could run a basement campaign like Joe Biden?
Oh my God.
Democrat. He wouldn't even have to. Joe Biden didn't even rally at all, and he became president.
Well, the latest tally is, so since Kamala Harris became the nominee, was elevated to nominee, what is it? Trump and Vance have done over 90 appearances, either town halls, in one-on-one interviews, or press conferences. And she and Tim Walz, they're up to 9.
Oh,
It's like 10-1.
double
So-
digits any day now. Watch
If
out.
you want to slow down a little bit and just take a breather while the Secret Service figures out what the heck it's up to, that's fine with me. You do that, Trump, putting the time in. Oh my gosh.
All right. Rolling the Twilight Zone now. Josh, you're up first.
Well, I don't know who did this, but you get these conservative man on the street things, and they asked this trans activist why they don't like conservatives.
I'm almost mad that you stole this, but it is a good
Let's
one.
roll the tape. This is
All right.
This is too good.
What is something weird about conservatives?
There is almost a cultish vibe, I feel. The way they operate within themselves, they refuse to listen to outside people, they're refusing to learn, essentially. I think that is a large part of it.
What is some
Okay.
Culture vibe.
Trans Joker, dude.
Hello, pot, meet kettle.
And we just had the conversation about trying to like bridge gaps, find where we relate, and then we get this man in the street. And true, I do think there's a place for this kind of thing, of course, like show just how
Absurdity.
because this is the end of the rope. Like you don't start by painting yourself in cloud makeup and chopping off body parts. You start somewhere else, and then you eventually lead yourself all the way down to this. And this is a byproduct of this ideology, right? I mean, crazy talk. I could not believe that transition.
I mean, if I was asked to like artistically depict someone who had a cultish vibe, I would have drawn that person's face without even seeing the.
They literally did the cartoon. I mean, it's amazing. This is the meme. I mean,
That is the
walking meme.
All right, Erica, what you got?
Well, speaking of walking memes, we have more imagery to share. We're gonna do this one pogo here.
Okay.
So we have a Trafalgar Square. These are combining two of my favorite things to riff off of. We have Trafalgar Square in London, which is to commemorate the triumphs of Lord Nelson, Lord Admiral Nelson. We have on what's called the fourth plinth. So this is a big stone pile that has statuary on it. The fourth one just has a new trans monument. It is unbelievable. So this Mexican artist took maps of transgender prostitutes and put them up on this huge square thing in order to mimic the skull towers of the Aztec human sacrifices.
Okay, Erica, it sounds like you're underwater. Am I the only one
Yeah,
here?
yeah, I
Am I
agree.
underwater?
Okay, wait, you're back.
Am I back? Okay.
Start that
Better.
over. It
I
literally-
started talking about satanic imagery, and the gods of the internet put me underwater. So basically, this is now in the middle of this beautiful, beautiful plaza. It is literally an Aztec ritual human sacrifice. This is just so demonic. And people are like, well, this is terrible because it's replacing these statues of these missionaries. But I looked into it a little bit more. And if you could go to the next link, Pogo.
do we have to?
It turns out, yeah. Do we have to?
I'm
You
already
do.
tired of looking at this. Okay.
It turns out the fourth plinth has become the missionary statues disappeared a long time ago, guys. We're talking like 2018. You got that one, Pogo?
It's slow. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. This is the These are other statues that have appeared in Trafalgar Square. Farewell, Britain. Farewell, Empire. The sun has set upon the British Empire. This one wasn't so bad. Here we have the missionaries.
Whoa.
Then we get the Babylonian god. If you keep scrolling
Kinda on
down,
the nose there.
then we get like some poop coming out of the sky that looks like a fist. Not sure about that. Then we get the horse of the apocalypse with some kind of gift bow on. So basically what I'm trying to communicate
This feels
here is
very numbers.
this is ugly. This is just ugly stuff. But I do think the Aztec dead prostitute statues
I mean,
take
this
the
is
cake.
just a blue chicken. Or a blue,
That's the blue chick. This was the best one, the blue rooster in the middle of Trafalgar Square.
it's funny
um,
at least.
Yeah,
Good laugh.
it's got humor.
What is the book of the Bible about the end times? Is that
That's the apocalypse, buddy. That's a revelation right there.
Sorry.
Yeah, a little bit of Book of Daniel too. This is what I'm getting from it. I mean, it just gets worse and worse. We have
Oh,
Nelson
that's kinda cool.
ship in a
That's kinda
bottle.
cool. You got to give them
Yeah,
kind of cool having.
yep, the giant bottle. But then go down to the next one. I mean, this is like a stack of there's Marie Antoinette up there.
Whoa,
This is like my kid's magnet tile set.
magnet tiles,
Right.
and I love playing with.
I love magnet
my
tiles.
favorite child toy because they're fun for everyone.
Yeah, do not scroll down to the next one, but we have to censor ourselves. So we're just going to stop at this
Oh,
point.
God.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Stop.
I'm not going to do it.
All right, phew.
Magnet tiles. Although the worst part about magnet tiles is I'll invest so much time in creating something cool, and then all my 2-year-old wants to do is destroy it.
Yeah.
You're talking about playing them to this day. Okay.
Yes, we still do. Magnet tiles are sick. Magnet tiles was a great whenever that came along.
Wonderful invention.
Magnet tiles and golf are the big two right now. Yeah, someone said the ship in the bottle is kind of cool. Not gonna lie. Agreed. Qdisius, who also joining RCIA. Congratulations, dude.
Nice.
Hey.
First-time listener. I see you in there. Qdisius.
Yeah.
What is his picture? Is that from He-Man or something?
Skeletor, bro.
Skeletor. Wait, who is Skeletor?
Skeletor.
Memes. I've never.
He-Man. You never. Oh.
The power of Grayskull.
Power. Come on.
Is that something like old people watch or was?
That was like 1980s Saturday morning cartoons. My brother was obsessed with it.
Little dated on me.
Yeah,
The memes are funny. I'll give him that. And then you didn't even bring up my favorite part was the caption of the one that you brought out, Erica. It's, "Yo, bro, want to hang out? Yeah, meet me at the dead transgender prostitute monument."
So bizarre.
That's real, dude. That's
so
real.
bizarre. Like we need beauty.
I'm rounding out the show with, so we started with roasts, and probably one of the best gifts that Trump has brought us is Trump impersonations that are good. Now, my personal favorite, Shane Gillis,
Very good.
unbelievably good, and he's just ripe for impersonations with the voice, the way that he speaks. It's hilarious. The hands, the whole thing. Now, I've seen some good Kamala Harris ones. This might be my favorite, and I don't know if Trump will have enough time to work this one out because this guy, I mean, really nails it. So I'm gonna share. Some of you may have seen this one, genuinely spot on. Here we go.
Okay. On my first day in office, we are going to dedicate all our funds to figuring out how to get the spaghetti sauce out of Tupperware. Okay? And that is going to reduce American expenses on Tupperware, okay? And that's going to put the money back into what we are calling an opportunity economy, okay? Because we are not going back. We are not. And this former president would like you all to spend money on glass Pyrex. I remember growing up with my mother. There was a small business, and they served everything in these little takeout containers. And we would go home, okay, as you do. And we would use them. We would reuse them, okay? That's the America I grew up in. I was not given $1 million baby formula in a golden chalice that was heated by holding it between the thighs of a manservant. Okay? And I did not file for bankruptcy 6 times. Thank you.
That was great. He even had the hand motions. It was really funny.
Yeah, you thought the Trump hands were funny. The Kamala hands are even better. Oh, man.
That was pretty good.
I hope the roast is good. Yeah, I'm getting roasted for my He-Man take. I don't know if
Everyone loves He-Man. I'm so
a good
excited,
show.
guys.
maybe I gotta go rip some He-Man. I don't know.
You gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's just a constant being on the show is just a constant reminder of my ignorance. Like I'll say something. There's something else people are getting on me about for not knowing. Although my Sandlot take aged super well, and you were way off.
It did.
People love Sandlot, and it is great. Okay, so we have. Well, first off, is the matching gift campaign still going on?
Oh, yes, sir.
So
We're in our final week.
it's in the description. If you want to get the ad that CatholicVote has created to as many people as possible, please contribute to this campaign. You'll find it in the link of this YouTube video and also for Spotify. Josh, you said that the biggest response to it has been like, this is great, or B, it's not happening.
Well, a lot of people on our list have been very thankful that we're doing this and that we're just not holding back and we're giving it to Kamala. And we're talking about what's really happening. Of course, you know, we have 600,000 people on our email list. There's some people who actually support Kamala. And so like, they're grousing about that. But I'm not going to lie to you. There are actually some good people of goodwill, some pro-lifers who are like, this is too crazy. This is disgusting. This can't be happening. It can't be true. It's like, what are you talking about? Yes, in fact, we are performing medical experiments on children under the age of 18. We are doing transgender stuff on these kids. It's happening in our own country. And we have a Biden-Harris administration that supports it being done with your money. So other countries like England have said, we're not doing this anymore. We got to stop this. If you want to do it when you're over 18, it's another thing, but not for minors. But in the US of A, you better believe it. Bunch of, Lululemon shopping moms from Buckhead, they support this crap, and we got to say no.
Wait a second.
Buckhead.
Ask Keller. Sorry, I don't know why I implied this. Ask Keller in the chat, because you said the Loop goes to 600,000 people. She said 1 million subscribers before taxes.
That was good.
Not bad.
That's a callback. That's what they call in the business, a callback. Okay, wow. Sweet. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, let's give a little shout out to the chat. Here we go. Boom. Look at all the homies in the chat.
Oh, hey guys.
You are so nice. I'm like giving people an opportunity to kind of roast me a little bit. And they're like, no, you're good. It's all good. We don't Skeletor. It's like, I appreciate, man, the nicest chat of all time. A lot of people probably from the Midwest.
Yeah, you get pity compliments. So.
They love you, Pogo.
Done being cute. Thank you guys for being here. If you want to leave a like in the episode, it helps out a lot. Share us around. Subscribe on YouTube. And reviews, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can actually leave us comments there too. I've been checking, which has been great. If you want to email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org is where you can do that. If you want to help us out the most, become a champion. It's the only way we're able to do this. I promise there will be less ads on this YouTube. That was outrageous. We will handle that behind the scenes. Yeah. And of course, pray for us, pray for our country, pray for the election. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe.